It's 11 o'clock on Sunday, day 2 of GODZone. Race director Warren Bates is standing on the Kaiteriteri beach for the second time. This is a little bit unusual, Warren.
Yeah, well, this year we've actually got a second race starting, the pursuit race, and the teams have just headed away. It's an absolutely stunning morning here. And yeah, they're going to be chasing down the pure teams on a slightly shorter course, but I think it's going to be just as spectacular.
I spoke to a couple of teams before they left, and some were a little bit nervous, but there were a couple of teams there that were feeling very competitive.
Oh, I think it'll be just as serious as the pure guys. I mean, you've got the added interest of a support team, but they're going to want to win. You know, you get yourself in a race, they're going to want to win. And we thought they might walk down the beach, but they all ran off. So they're all just as pumped as the pure guys. And yeah, they've got a beautiful start here. It's absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, hopefully they're going to have a great day. They've got a slightly shorter situation at Rabbit Island because they're not orienteering. But they've still got a very tough kayak, coaster and bike leg ahead of them. So yeah, you know, it's just great to see a new event starting.
It's interesting too that they've been able to follow the pure teams in the last 24 hours. They've had 24 hours to digest where the course is going, and also to see, particularly from yesterday's Rabbit Island segment, teams going through some rather challenging surf conditions.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's probably what most of those guys spent yesterday doing, was either packing their stuff or getting their support crews up to speed, but also watching the live coverage and working out, you know, where did the teams go wrong, where have they made mistakes. And there was a few ripples of laughter when we announced that the surf was bigger at Rabbit Island, but it actually isn't. But they'll be well aware of what's ahead of them. And then, you know, they'd have been watching last night and seeing how many teams got lost on the mountain biking. It's very challenging terrain in there in terms of the number of logging trails. So they, you know, maybe I suspect 70, 80, 90% of them will be thinking on that stage, well, we've got to be conservative. Better to be on the right track and not lost than taking what seems to be a more direct line, but ultimately leads to far more mistakes. And that's something that we've seen a lot of in the pure race. So it does give the pursuit teams an advantage, but you've still got to execute it. And, you know, once it gets dark, that's when you make the mistakes. And we saw the number of errors increase tenfold as soon as it got dark last night. And it's, you know, as we always say, that's really where you show your mettle as a navigator, is when it gets dark.
That's right. And so, you know, the pursuit teams, some of them, there's 2 or 3 all-male teams, which is an interesting dynamic that GODZone hasn't had before. But an advantage for teams that are maybe well-versed in adventure racing, or they've done a couple of multi-day events. But for the pursuit teams that have really never done anything, watching all of that action unfold over the last 24 hours could actually be quite terrifying for them.
Yeah, I mean, everybody... Yeah, once you talk to people, there's always a mixture of emotions, but generally most of them will be, I think, would be quite nervous, just at the scale of what they're going to do. But I think the moment the gun starts, you start running, you jump into the sea for the first time, a lot of that gets flushed away, and then really it's about making sure you just focus on the job ahead and not trying to think too far ahead, because if you try and think about where you're going to be in 5-6 days time, it's actually quite hard to get your head round. But what you've got to be thinking about is, well, okay, first stop is Stevens Bay, and that's an hour away, and then the next stop is, you know, Rabbit Island, and that'll take us 3 hours to paddle. And you just try and focus. And I guess the advantage the pursuit guys have got is that they always know that there's going to be a friendly, smiley, helpful face at the TA in the form of friends, family, and supporters who are doing the support crew role. And I think that just emotionally and mentally is a massive thing for teams, because, you know, if the weather's good or bad, you know, when you get into the race and you haven't seen anybody, you know, a smiley face for a while, and you may be falling out with a teammate for 10 minutes because of something silly you've done, just having that kind of calming influence, you know, or somebody even to just shout at for 5 minutes who's a support crew person, just can really transform your mental state. And adventure racing at the expedition level is often about the mental state, and I think there's a big advantage for the support crew teams, you know, just actually having that sort of fresh set of eyes, a fresh perspective on what they're doing. Just someone to say, hey, you guys, you just did awesome. Yeah, you got lost, but it was only for 20 minutes, and you guys are on track. You're doing great. And I think that can transform somebody, you know, maybe is spending far too much time and energy worrying about a small mistake, which in the grand scheme of things just doesn't matter. So it's a great format of racing, and what I love about it really is that even in a big race like GODZone now, it's introducing a social element to the TAs, which I think every team here will benefit from. And it's just more people watching, more people getting engaged, and more people adventure racing. That's great for the sport.
Yeah, there has been phenomenal interest in the event this year, and this new pursuit category, for anybody watching now, you know, who might be a weekend warrior or has thought about doing this kind of event but maybe needs something to step up to, the pursuit category essentially for GODZone is the category that could grow exponentially next year.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll look at how we go with it. I mean, there's a lot of people thinking that ultimately our aim, and we have talked about this, is to make it a prerequisite of every team at GODZone to have to go through the pursuit event before they step up to the pure. And there is certainly merits in that because of just how tough the pure event is. I mean, it is the most technically difficult adventure race in the world. And for somebody who hasn't done anything more than a 24-hour race before, or even a 12-hour race, to step up to the pure is an amazing challenge. And to have 4 people to do that at the same time of all of the right ability is no mean feat. But I think the pursuit allows people to come and have a great taste of the New Zealand wilderness, the very best of what the teams are doing, but taking out some of those, maybe those technical navigation challenges, which we know will, you know, be the undoing of a few teams in the pure event. And I think it's a wonderful gateway event, and also it's a way of adventure racing which actually involves your family, or, you know, the people you sort of involved with. And sometimes the pure event can come across as a slightly selfish endeavour. It's 4 people on their own, and, you know, loved ones, partners can feel sometimes a little isolated from that. But with the pursuit event, you know you have to get your support crew, your friends and family fully involved, and they're going to be integral to your success, you know, because they can help you on the maps. And what will be happening now is that the teams that have gone on the pursuit event, those teams, if they're smart, who are doing the support crew side of it, will be looking where the other teams are going on, and going, when they meet their pursuit teams in transition, they'll be telling them, this is what the teams have been doing, this is what you could do. So they're not just providing food and shelter at the TAs, they're going to be providing advice, they're going to be providing navigational thoughts, observations of what other people are doing, and it's a much more managerial type role, which it just gives the whole event a whole different experience. And I think if you want to come and experience the very best adventure race in the world, but do it in a way which is slightly less taxing, but just as spectacular, then the pursuit event is definitely the way to do it.